is Agent Caitlin Mills. It is Friday, October 15th, 2021, approximately 9:17 a.m., located at 2054 North Bel Air Road, Evans, Georgia, at Mr. Chad Medlin's office. And I'm here with Agent Annie Mormon and Investigator Richard Russell, Richmond County Sheriffs Office. Okay. So let's just start with like a basic background of your law enforcement career. You're currently with Richmond County Sheriff's Office. How long have you been with Richmond County?
Started in 2015 in the jail, moved to road patrol in 2017, and moved to CID this year.
In 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And were you with any departments prior to Richmond County?
No, ma'am.
If there's a lot of pausing and stuff, I just gotta write and see what's going on next. And so your title currently is what?
I'm a narcotics investigator.
Okay. And so we will eventually go look at like your training record and personal record and stuff like that. Do you remember off the top of your head when you may have last qualified with your Taser? Or if you don't, it's okay.
It was last year's in-service. I haven't gone to in-service this year, but
Okay.
I don't know the dates on it.
Okay. And then going specifically to the date of the incident, the 11th, which was this past Monday. Do you remember like what shift you were working, what time you came on?
So we have a 8 to 5 schedule.
Okay.
That's what it's 8:30 to 5 is what we're actually scheduled to work, but we do work past that.
Mm-hmm.
So this was around 7 or so when this happened. So I came in just after 8:30 that morning, I believe.
Okay. And so what determines, like, you said normally it's 8:30 to 5, but this was around 7 or so. So how does that work? Like, how do y'all determine if you're going to stay late or?
Depends on what we have going on. If
Okay.
we have something with what we work, we really don't keep standard hours because of the type of investigations that we do aren't conducted during standard Monday through Friday 8 to 5 business hours.
Right.
So typically we'll either come in later in the morning
Right.
and stay later in the afternoon,
Okay.
or if we have something, a phone call from a confidential source saying X, Y, and Z, we'll go out to handle it.
Okay.
I mean, there's been plenty of times I've left my house in the middle of the night.
Right.
So.
Okay. Gotcha. So basically just very dependent on what's going on. Okay. And what was your assignment on that day?
As far as
Like, I know generally like a road patrol might have a shift or something like that. Do y'all have anything like that, or is it just?
No, we have the freedom to kind of dictate our schedule as
Okay.
far as what's necessary for what we're investigating.
Okay.
So this particular day started off, office hours and office work, and I got some information and phone calls throughout the day that needed to be followed up with throughout the night. And
Okay.
that's actually what was taking place just prior to this.
Okay. Prior to this incident, you said you came in about 8:30. Do you recall having like a normal night's sleep before that? Okay.
Sunday is usually a good night for sleep.
Do you remember about how long you may have slept?
Actually, over 8 hours.
Okay.
I went to bed early Sunday.
Okay, and then, so now kind of transitioning to the traffic stop and incident itself. Just kind of tell me, like, how did that start, your involvement?
So, prior to the stop, it was actually an investigation into a narcotic sales subject. That investigation is still kind of ongoing, but there's some complications with the CI and not following instructions and not following up on what they're supposed to do. We had surveillance in 2133 Vanderveer, myself being part of that, along with Investigator Brown and Deputy Martinez. We'd set up for a takedown on a quantity of methamphetamine. So that's actually what we were doing out and what we were investigating. It's supposed to be a trafficking amount of methamphetamine we were trying to intercept. Some mistakes were made on the CI's part. The target stopped answering the phone for him, stopped talking to him, and he got scared. Both probably the target and the CI, and they broke contact. We were never ever actually to physically see a hand-to-hand or the CI make contact with the target. Based on some physical surveillance that was taking place in the area, Deputy Martinez and Investigator Brown observed several people on foot in the area.
I just want to stop you real quick. There is something I have to read you that I was supposed to read you at the beginning, but I'm going to go ahead and knock that out real quick, okay? So this investigation is to determine whether any criminal laws have been violated during the use of force incident, and is not an administrative or disciplinary inquiry. You are not being compelled to give any statement or answer any questions, and your cooperation in this investigation is voluntary. So basically the same thing that Pat explained to you Tuesday when we were there. So that's just kind of a procedural thing. We got to make sure that you know that before we start talking to you. So sorry to interrupt you. Just
no, it's no
popped
problem.
in.
So again, I was with the CI while some of these phone calls were made, and again, they're supposed to just kind of meet outside of one of the apartments. The CI was giving instructions on when and how to meet him, what to do when the contact was made, and what we were going to do following contact. Contact never happened, so we're trying to piece together where the original target of this takedown was at. There was some people walking around outside, but shortly after the contact was broke with the CI and the target, this Tahoe was seen leaving that area rather abruptly.
Okay.
Investigator Brown followed it from the area around Vanderveer, up Highland Avenue.
So where were they leaving from?
The area of Vanderveer, 2133 Vanderveer. It's Magnolia Park Apartments.
Okay, so like an apartment complex. Okay.
Yeah, they were leaving from around that. I don't know exactly which apartment building or any of that. I wasn't actually there with them when all that took place. I was trying to regain contact with my CI to make sure he was okay. So he follows them out from there, follows them up Highland Avenue, and conducts a probable cause stop based on a tenant tag covering. It was an obscure tag. Deputy Tarpley arrives in a marked patrol car to assist him, and shortly after that I arrive.
So Investigator Brown is the one that initiates the stop, and then Deputy Tarpley is what is his role? Is he like road patrol?
He's a crime suppression lead. Crime suppression was assisting with this, so typically with takedowns we need multiple people. We'll try to use as many investigators as we can, but being that it's Monday and after 5, a lot of people had already gone home for the day. So me and Investigator Brown were still out, and crime suppression was still working, and we worked very closely with them most of the time. So we were going to utilize their manpower and personnel for the takedown. So we were all there together.
Gotcha. So there was a lot of y'all that were already in that area because of what was going on prior.
Correct.
Okay. And so Investigator Brown pulls the car over, and then Deputy Tarpley gets on scene, and then you're the third one that gets on scene to the traffic stop?
Correct.
Okay. Before you get there, were you aware of anyone that was in the vehicle, or any of the circumstances surrounding the vehicle, anything like that?
As far as, did I know the people in the car?
Right.
No, I had no idea who was in the car.
Okay. So as far as prior knowledge to the traffic stop, what did you know before you got there?
That this was a group of people that were in the area where we were conducting our narcotics investigation, and then around the time frame where contact was broke with our CI and the target, this vehicle quickly left.
Okay.
It is probably important to note that I did overhear the phone call with the CI and the target, and basically the explanation was he wasn't at his house, he was at a trap or a spot, as it was referred to. so it's not somewhere that he would stay or lay his head overnight, and he could leave quickly.
Okay.
So.
But that's not somebody that's in involved in this vehicle?
It turned out to not be, no.
Okay, gotcha. And okay, and so because of the nature of this, I'm assuming there was no sort of briefing or anything like that prior to this.
There was a very short briefing as far as the investigation was concerned, but
the narcotics investigation,
but
right?
Not specifically about this vehicle or traffic stop.
Okay.
We had very limited information on what the target was driving, where the target was, what the target was wearing. It was not just one of those, I guess, I'm trying to find the right word for it. Like the CI has dealt with this guy. He knows this guy, but he also knows this guy to drive multiple vehicles. He can describe what he looks like. He's able to identify him after. He was able to identify him while we were on this traffic stop with another investigator that he was with.
Okay.
But he doesn't know what he was driving this day, what he was wearing, or what apartment he was in. He'd never met him over there.
Okay.
So the information was limited.
Okay. So, just so that I understand correctly, were y'all thinking that this vehicle may have possibly been involved and just not sure at the time?
Yeah, it was an investigative stop. Like I said, probable cause was developed on the vehicle to conduct the investigative stop to either confirm or eliminate them as being involved.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure that I was understanding that right.
So the timing on when they left, the timing on when contact was broke, all of those things kind of fell in line.
I gotcha. And then, so before Investigator Brown made this stop, was it solely his decision making the stop, or did he contact you and did y'all have discussion about it first, or?
Not prior to they got brought up as far as surveillance team information was relayed. There's a group here, there's a group here, there's a group here. There were several vehicles that were brought up in that, but the timeline didn't quite fit as well. So this was all the information that was relayed over while the UC was in place. Hey, there's a group out here that's doing this. There's a couple people here. There's one guy here. From what he could see. Okay. So there's a lot of radio traffic and a lot of stuff that was being discussed. But specifically, did I tell him to stop this, that, or whatever? No. Okay. We were just. There was a Lexus that we were discussing that kind of disappeared, and this was another one of the vehicles. Okay. So.
Gotcha. Okay. And so, back to that night, I know when we saw you on Tuesday, you were dressed differently. On Monday night, can you just kind of describe what you had on?
So I'm still assigned to a plainclothes division, primarily for the type of work that we do. It's easier to blend in with average person in some of the neighborhoods. So I will wear plain clothes. I had on a t-shirt. I don't remember what kind, along with blue jeans and tennis shoes. But I was wearing a outer carrier vest with the word sheriff displayed across the front of it in large letters. They're in large white letters, and the badge was also displayed.
Do you remember where your badge was at?
I typically wear it on my left shoulder, on the lapel clip, where it's out. Which is where I took it off of my vest the next morning, so that's where it would have been.
Okay. What color is the vest?
It's a black outer carrier vest.
And the vehicle that you were in, what kind of vehicle were you in that night?
I was in a white Impala.
Does it have blue lights or any markings or anything?
It has emergency blue lights in it, but no markings.
And do you recall verbally identifying yourself as Richmond County Sheriff's Office or police or anything like that?
I did not. By the time I got up there, contact had already been made with the occupants.
Okay.
Deputy Tarpley was on scene in a crime suppression uniform and a marked Richmond County patrol car as well.
So from that, we've kind of set up the scene, like we know who was there, when you got there, that kind of stuff. So just kind of start telling me about the stop itself and the encounter.
So when I arrived on scene, Investigator Brown was on the passenger side of the vehicle while Deputy Tarpley was briefly on the driver's side coming back with paperwork, stuff like that to his car. Me and Investigator Brown stayed on the passenger side of the vehicle. There were 3 occupants in the vehicle: the driver, front seat passenger, and back seat passenger. Deputy Brown was at the at the passenger side front window, directly to the right of the driver, and I was at the C-pillar of the car, like the rear window of the vehicle. Investigator Brown kind of engaged everybody in the car in conversation, talked about the Tahoe. It was an older hard-body Tahoe. He's got a thing for older cars, so they talked about that, motor, just small talk, really. Explained, they were checking the information in the computer and kind of just try to keep everybody calm and dispel any issues or anything like that. It was a relatively peaceful conversation between everybody. I did happen to notice while I was up there talking that the backseat passenger was kind of concealing himself behind the solid window that doesn't roll down. He was staying pushed back, trying to stay out of view. Wasn't really talking or engaging in conversation with us. The back window was only rolled down partially. It's incredibly dark tint on it, so it's hard to see in. So I actually wound up getting a flashlight from another deputy so I could see through the tent. When I was able to do that, I noticed that the backseat passenger also had some kind of rapid, shallow breathing, which would indicate to me it's a stress reaction to presence. It's something that I've noticed and picked up on a lot. I stop a lot of cars. I've interacted with a lot of people. And typically when you start seeing these type of reactions, it's something that is indicative of someone engaged in criminal activity or stress, the fight, flight, or freeze. So I was watching him, paying him a little bit more attention than I was the front two as far as my area of responsibility. Me and Investigator Brown stepped back for just a second. He had to ask me a question. I believe it was about the K9, which K9 was en route. We stepped back away from the car to just the back side of the car for him to ask me that. And when we did, I noticed the backseat passenger, which is Mr. Jermaine Jones Jr., leaned up, started whispering to the front seat passenger, and started to unlock his phone. So all of those things kind of coupled together. We went and made contact back with him. Asked him not to use his phone, told him not to use his phone. And I just told him, hang on, wait till we get out of here before we started calling anybody or all that. Nothing real significant took place prior to the arrival of the K9. This all kind of took place maybe in a matter of 10 minutes or so. Investigator Brown asked the driver for consent to search the car, and the driver gave consent to search the car. At the same time, Deputy Hucko had arrived with her K9. The K9 did a free air sniff of the vehicle and gave a positive alert also. So we had a consent to search and we established probable cause on the vehicle. All the occupants were removed from the vehicle. Investigator Brown removed the front seat passenger, while I believe it was Deputy Tarpley removed the driver, and then Investigator Brown removed the back seat passenger. I gave him instructions to sit down on the curb just behind the vehicle in front of me. Everyone complied with those instructions and sat there. I noticed when Jermaine Jones Jr. got out of the vehicle, everybody else kind of stood there, got patted down. Jermaine Jones Jr. got out with his hands up. He kept his hands up even without being instructed to do so, and then was told kind of, hey, put him on the car. So he was patted down for weapons and brought back to the back. While he was doing that, he was kind of checking his surroundings, looking around, which is indicative of pre-flight from what I've seen and what I've experienced in the past. He came over and he had a seat, and same thing while he's on the ground, he's paying attention, particularly to the what it looked like for the canine handler. Once she passed and was headed back to the car is when he made his move to take flight. Prior to that, he pulled his legs in, kind of pulled his socks up, was looking both directions a lot, not just back and forth, but back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Leaned over to say something to his dad, and where I was at, I was behind him. It was inaudible to me, but I was told after the fact that he did verbalize his intention to run, and that was heard by other deputies, but from where I was at, I couldn't see his face or hear what was going on. He pulled his legs in underneath him as he was looking around and jumped to his feet and immediately tried to take flight. Once he stood up and took flight, he made that movement toward escaping. I deployed my taser single cartridge, striking him in the back. One probe was just below his shoulder blade, and the other one was just like mid-back. It was pretty close to taser deployment, so there wasn't a really good spread.
You said one was just below the shoulder blade and the other one was where?
Yeah, like maybe the bottom of the rib cage. Like it was like just above the bottom rib. It wasn't a wide spread.
Okay.
I said it was very close. He didn't make it to the outside of the car before the taser was deployed. Like he got up and took that first run, trying to get out into the street, and I was able to deploy my taser before he'd even picked up any speed or got far.
Okay.
The taser was deployed at the same time. Deputy Gator was able to grab the suspect, and they both went to the ground together. The taser appeared to have its desired effect to begin with, where it did stop his flight, where Deputy Gator was able to grab him and take him to the ground. And by that, I mean like he kind of both went to the ground, like cradled him to the ground at the same time, from what I saw. I began to walk over to where Mr. Jones was. I heard a clothing disconnect, and at this point in time, Deputy Gator is on the ground with him, trying to get his hands in handcuffs. So I de-energized the device, or the taser. There was no need for it anymore. Deputy Gator, Deputy Leathers were struggling with Mr. Jones on the ground, trying to get his hands behind his back. And I noticed he had kind of clenched them in between. A lot of this is happening simultaneously. I know it's a long explanation, but a lot of things are going on at one time. After the gentlemen were sitting in the curb in front of me, Investigator Brown began his PC search of the vehicle. So that was taking place while I was watching them, while the dog was being put up. All of this is pretty much the same time. So Mr. Jones got up, and I think I forgot to mention, like, he kicked his slides. He was wearing slippers, flip-flops, whatever you want to refer to them as. He kicked those off prior to taking flight. So all of this is happening at the same time. I deploy the taser. Mr. Jones, Gator, and Deputy Leathers are on the ground wrestling. Deputy Brown locates a firearm in the vehicle and announces that to the other deputies on scene, that there's a gun in the car. What I heard specifically was gun. And that was all that was really processed at the time, was that a gun was involved in what we had going on. I saw Deputy Gator and Deputy Parkers were struggling with Mr. Jones on the ground, but there were also two people that were unsecured, and Investigator Brown was essentially by himself with those two people. Jermaine Jones Sr. actually stood up and yelled out while they were wrestling, trying to get his hands. So I had to divert my attention back to him. I gave him instructions to sit down while utilizing my taser. I pointed my taser at him, just told him to sit down and gave instructions while the taser was pointed at him. And he sat back down, complied with all commands, there was no issue. Investigator Brown took over, kind of watching over them while we still continued to try to get this gentleman in handcuffs. I went back over. They were still struggling to get his hands out from underneath him and get him behind his back. Deputy Gator had took up kind of a mount position where he was able to control suspect's movement, like at his hips.
911, do you need police, fire, or ambulance?
Yes, ma'am. We have a death there. We have a screw. My dad, he's around our car. He's going into he's going into unknown house. And my husband's got a gun. Got a gun.
Guys that try to do it with a video.
We have the trespass out here taking photos, and it's illegal out here at Graceful Campus.
You're at where, ma'am?
We're at East Central Regional Hospital, the Graceful Campus. We need a deputy to come out. We have the trespassers. We need a deputy to come out.
Got a gun.
We need a deputy to come out. We have the trespassers.
Answer all the questions right and we won't be on YouTube.
Got a gun.
We won't be on YouTube. Answer all the questions right and
Where you coming from tonight?
we won't be on YouTube.
How much you had to drink while you was downtown?
We won't.
No, I didn't drink anything.
We won't.
All right, give me just 1 second, all right?
We won't be on YouTube.
You got glossy eyes. So what I wanted to do was run some evaluation just to make sure you're safe to drive.
Yeah, that's what he's trying.
Is that all right with you, sir?
Yeah, that's what he's trying.
Okay, because most people that are intoxicated or under the influence of some sort of narcotics say I'm okay.
Yeah, that's what he's trying.
Well, my problem right now is your pupils are pinpoint, and they've been there the entire time we've been out here talking.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
You're under the influence of any type of drug or narcotic.
Oh, okay, well, I don't have to make contact if you don't want me to.
I don't smoke. I don't take no marijuana. I don't drink. Nothing, sir. I don't do that at home. I work. At my job, they have background check.
No, they said hook him up if he's refusing.
But we won't be on YouTube.
No, they said hook him up if he's refusing. You ain't got any weapons, guns, drugs, knives, anything like that on you? Okay, you mind if I check real quick? Turn around for me, I'll pat you down, just make sure you don't have anything on you, okay?
Were there any weapons that were mentioned or involved?
Got a gun.
Were there any weapons that were mentioned or involved?
Got a gun.
We won't be on YouTube.
All right, we have a deputy that's being dispatched now. They'll be there soon.
Yeah, that's what he's trying.
You got somebody that come pick you up?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
We won't be on YouTube.
I'm trying to understand what's going on, sir.
I believe that you're under the influence, based on the cues that I've been given. The way that you're talking to me right now, the way your eyes are reacting to light, the way your eyes are glossy. All right, do me a favor, put your hands down by your side for me.
Sir, I haven't been doing anything.